Are you live, Paul?
We just want to confirm the sound.
We need to go live.
The video is on. Just the sound. Just check.
Good morning. So I think I'll give you each a moment to just introduce yourselves. Hello, good morning. You can hear? Can he?
1, 2, 1, 2, check. Microphone check. I 1, 2, 3. Are you able to hear?
Speak.
You can hear? All right? No? Yes?
Go live, Paul. You can hear? You can hear? Okay. So we start. Good morning. So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the UBA Business Series on tax. I think this is an important topic for all of us, and we all agree that compliance is key for any business. My name is Catherine Awar, Head of Marketing and Corporate Communication at UBA Bank. And today I'm honored to have with me experts from the tax sector, as well as UBA Kenya MD and CEO, Ms. Mary Mulili. And I'll give our panelists a moment to each introduce each other, to introduce themselves, so that you get to know who we have in the panel this morning. And we thank all our listeners from wherever they are for joining this session. And we believe that at the end of the session, you will have insights that will keep our businesses compliant and ready for success ahead. So welcome again. And I take a moment to introduce our panelists. So this morning, we have with us, I'll start off with our MD here at UBA Kenya, Ms. Mary Mulili. Please say hello to our audience.
Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us in this business series. We are very delighted to have you. This is just one of many more. We'll be having these conversations on the various topics that impact on your business, and also showcasing ways in which you can partner with yourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mary. Next, on to my right, I have Mr. Andrew Momanyi from Kenya Revenue Authority. Mr. Momanyi, most welcome. Kindly introduce yourself to the audience.
Thank you very much. My name is Andrew Momanyi from Kenya Revenue Authority, Domestic Taxes Department, currently handling e-teams, and I'm glad to be here. Looking forward to this engaging conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Momanyi. Our next panelist is Mr. Sandeep Main from KPMG, East Africa. Mr. Sandeep, you're most welcome. You may introduce yourself briefly to the audience.
Yeah, thank you, Catherine. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sandeep Main. I'm a tax partner with KPMG, and I also double up as the head of private enterprise, which then focuses on the MSMEs. Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. So, without much ado, this morning we have lined up a very insightful discussion for you all, mirroring on tax, as well as SME opportunities that are available within UBA Bank. And so to start us off in our first session, we'll be mirroring specifically on e-Teams compliance, as well as tax amnesty opportunities that SMEs can leverage on for their businesses, even as they look at risk mitigation within their business. Because we all agree that without compliance, as a business, you risk penalties. You also risk, facing defamation for your business. So these are some of the things that you can actually avoid. And with me this morning, we have experts who will take us through. You can borrow best practices that will make your business grow to the next level. So we will move on to our discussion on e-Teams and tax amnesty, and we'll be led by Mr. Sandeep Main on this discussion. Thank you. Andrew.
From where I stay to the consulting world. So Andrew, we do know what e-Teams is all about, but I think there's not enough information. I know KRA has done a lot in terms of social media, but maybe briefly tell us, e-Teams is here, but what are the potential solutions to e-Teams? What does a taxpayer, how can a taxpayer onboard e-Teams? Maybe you can start with that.
Thank you very much, Sandeep. You realize that with e-Teams, it's a software solution that has actually been tailor-made to ensure that the businesses, in the nature of their business or where they're actually conducting their business, we are able to tap whatever is available within the environment to enable them to comply. So just to look at probably your business customer, you don't have a computer, you don't have these sophisticated devices, then at least you have a smartphone. You could be having even the kabambu. You could be accessing maybe internet or cyber services. So it means that we have a lot more solutions tailor-made to be used in Android devices, to be used on Windows devices, to also be used on USSD,
Okay.
and then also to be able to be used on web. So it means that you can just log into the web and be able to generate your invoice. And we now, for the sophisticated businesses, we have system-to-system integration, where you are able to integrate the current invoicing system that you have to e-Teams, and then you're able to generate your invoices without moving from the comfort of your business operations.
Okay, so just taking you a step back. So you talked about the web-based solutions, the online solutions, and the USSD solutions. Yes. So those are the three solutions. System to system. Plus system to system. Yeah. So imagine I'm a manufacturer, for instance, and I do employ the services of a number of smaller or micro businessmen. So say, for example, a plumber, an electrician. Are those guys expected to give me an e-Teams invoice? And really, I take this as a cost. Normally, they sign a petty cash voucher, and I'm done with it. Okay. But now, what I hear you say that everyone must issue e-Teams. Yes. So will they need to issue an e-Teams invoice to me?
Yes. The answer is yes. Basically, what e-Teams is doing is that it's cutting two ways. Okay. One way is for you to be able to declare your income or business income that you are receiving, then you need to account it in an electronic form. Okay. So it means that you're able to actually have all your records in electronic format, and then they are transmitted to the Revenue Authority, and which will assist you now at the end of the period of the tax period to declare your income. In the other sense, then, as a business, you also incur expenditure.
Yes.
And now, the one you're talking about, the manufacturer, for him to be able to actually support his expenditure that is incurred in maybe transacting with these MSMEs, they'll also need the electronic invoices as part of proof of their expenditure, which will be admissible or deductible on the income tax. So it means that as a business, if you're transacting with someone else, then you need to give them an electronic invoice so that they can support the expenditure. And also you as a business person, you'll need to have a form of record for your income. So it cuts both ways and depends on where you are. If you're receiving services and you're paying, then you need that invoice to support that expenditure.
All right, so to recap what you're saying,
Yes.
I will need an invoice from any part of my supply chain to take a deduction in my books from a tax point.
Yes.
And then, as well as the other person issuing the invoice would also then have to use the same. But then, for these micro, there's that USSD code that you talked about.
Yes.
Do you want to maybe briefly talk through that?
What we did is that we ensured that no one is left out in the base of the solutions that we have.
Okay.
Since we have the MSMEs and the small traders who are not able to access internet and all that, we went ahead and brought what we call simplified solutions.
Okay.
So these simplified solutions are in 3 categories. The first one, which is the most prevalent to those people who don't have smartphones, is the USSD code in conjunction with eCitizen. So that is the *222# hash. If you go to that, then you dial that, and it will give you a menu option. One of the menu option is KRA payments. And once you choose that, then you'll be able to actually, if you don't have a PIN, be registered for a PIN.
So, wait. If I'm a plumber,
Yes.
and I'm currently earning cash business from my supply chain, I would first, when I use the *222# hash, I can't just generate any
No, you have to register.
I need to register.
So the process of registering is checking, do you have a PIN?
Okay.
Because you just need to enter your ID number.
I enter my ID number.
And then there's also a security question where it will ask you for year of birth.
Okay.
And then it's able to do background check and check whether you have a PIN. So if you don't have a PIN, then you don't have to go to KRA offices. You'll just be registered there and get a PIN.
How long is that process?
It's barely 10 seconds.
Oh, I can get a PIN in 10 seconds?
Yes.
Okay. So once I have the PIN.
Yes, because once you dial *222# hash and the menu comes up and you dial KRA, which is number 5 option, it will ask you whether one of the menus is eTIMS invoice. And once you select that, then you are able to, it's able to check whether you have a PIN. If you have a PIN, that is how you register for eTIMS.
Okay. So I think that's a very important point for clients, SMEs, because they do procure a lot of services from the micro suppliers.
Yes.
So I think that's a very important point. So they will first register if they don't have a PIN, then they get a PIN, and then they can raise an invoice.
Yes.
But Andrew, what's the purpose of eTIMS? Is it to tax people? Because that, I think, is the biggest issue we are seeing in the market. Taxpayers are like, I don't want to pay any more tax. I'm already taxed at all levels. So is this about tax, or is it a bigger picture?
That's very true. eTIMS is not a tax. So maybe if I take people back, when you're in business, you're required to keep records. So that law has always been there under the income tax, under the VAT, and the various other tax laws that we have. The second thing is that for you to be able to do your declarations, then you have to have a form of record that you can say. Maybe, for example, you're a plumber and you happen to go to KRA and say that I'm disputing some of the taxes that are being levied on me. The only thing that can help you are the records you've kept. Now, we've realized over time that keeping records is a very tedious process, and most people don't know how to keep records. So you go to your consultant, maybe I go to you, Sandeep, and I say I need to file my income tax returns, maybe for rental income, or for the plumbing services, or even for construction services. And then you'll ask me, where are your records? Please give me a bit of your records so I'm able to ascertain how much you need to declare and pay.
Okay.
And now maybe I was writing them in an Excel book, or I was writing them on a foolscap.
Or in my mind.
Or in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is that you keep asking, so this day you did this business, you can't really remember how much you were paid, who was it for, and whether it's within that tax period that you're trying to file. And probably if it was a book and the kid came and went and play with it, and you know, nowadays with this education system where it's practical, they can decide to paint the book.
Okay.
So you lose out your records.
Okay.
And now you're not able to actually dispute what you've been levied as tax. So this eTeams helps you to keep your records. So if I do a transaction today, it's in electronic form. I can log in into my platform and see.
Okay.
So I can be able to actually retrieve, and the law also requires us to keep records for a certain duration of time.
Yes.
So you can imagine under your eCitizen account, you're able to have all your records.
Okay.
So even if you don't do business for some time and come back again, you're still able to invoice, and the invoice contains all the details, what KRA wants, what the supplier would want, and even avoid the minimal errors done on manual receipting.
Okay. You know, I've always had an issue with the law. I think there's a disconnect, because if you're under TOT, then ideally the TOT is the final tax. It doesn't require you to maintain records, but then the Finance Act 2023 introduced that provision that you must maintain records. So I guess eTeams would help with that.
Maybe I can explain that. Okay, what we are trying to do is simplify how people do their records or do declarations.
Okay.
Currently, under TOT and monthly rental income, you find that you have to go key in or input your sales there. So we want a way in which all this data, as you are invoicing, then they are able to be mirrored into your account.
Okay.
So that it becomes easy for you even just to know at a glance what your tax liability is, and even to be able to file wherever you are without knowing what are the complexities of filing these returns. So that will act as a record on your end, and also on the simplification of the return filing process.
Makes sense. So eTeams, to what you've just said, it's not a tax, it's about really expansion of the tax base.
Yes.
Because remember, if I'm already within the VAT threshold of the 5 million shillings a year, then I definitely already have a PIN, I probably would be VAT registered. So I think your target is really the hard to tax sectors, which also have, they're running a huge economy on themselves. The informal sector is a very huge economy on its own. So I think the only challenge perhaps taxpayers are facing is that you're holding the taxpayers responsible for ensuring compliance, which is, I guess, okay, you don't have to answer that question. But in line with that, are there any exemptions for eTeams? And this morning, I was surprised to see in the papers that now farmers, are lobbying to be exempted from eTeams. But would that not negate the purpose of eTeams in that case?
With eTeams, it has a lot of flexibility.
Okay.
And what we've done is that, as I had indicated, that we are actually coming to where people are doing their business and understanding their business and trying to work within their framework. So if I can give an example of farmers, I think what happens is that most of the farmers sometimes are in circles or they're in organized groups.
Absolutely.
So we want to see how can we tap that organization or that group or association to be able to now act on behalf of these farmers in a structured way so that we don't negate the objective. Because the objective is a way in which we can simplify how people do invoicing and also how they do their declarations. So not necessarily by them adopting a certain way of how one industry has done, but looking at the unique nature of their operations and then tapping into it to make sure that the accountability is already there. So if we have the discussion that you're talking about is a way in which how can we organize these farmers in a structured way so that they can be able to probably be in a certain form of organization and still comply with the requirements.
So not necessarily an exemption?
Not necessarily.
But are there any exemptions to eTeams?
Yes, there are. One of the exemptions is emoluments or salaries. Imagine if you are employed and you have to give your employer an eTeams every month. What if you don't pay? Or no, what if you don't issue an invoice? So for them, they have already been exempted, and because they already fall under the pay deductibility, and that accountability is already there. The other exemption is financial institutions on the interest on those transactions. So those ones have also been exempted because of how that operation of that sector works. We also have the accounting adjustments, the depreciations and all those things.
Okay.
And we also have importation of digital services. You know, with digital services, they're already covered under the VAT digital market supply.
Yes.
And they're also covered under the digital service tax.
Okay.
So for those ones, because they're also outside the country, then you don't really expect them to maintain.
So any imports, services or goods?
Services or goods, yes.
Yeah, would be exempt from, I can take a credit for that into my books without necessarily having an ETIMS. Would that lead to a challenge from a VAT filing perspective? Like we saw yesterday, until Revenue Authority opened up and let us file manually, the auto-populated return was not really working. So if I now pay on importation of my goods, for example, the custom duties and VAT, but it's not transmitting to the Revenue Authority, or is there interlinkage between the custom systems and...
The biggest challenge is on declaration.
Okay.
You know, when you actually transact with someone, then you need to provide them with your PIN, because KRA only knows identification through PIN.
Yes.
So if I transact with you and I don't give you my PIN, then that transaction is not tied to me and you.
Okay.
Because definitely with invoices, they have the PIN of the seller. So meaning in terms of sales, then you're able to know this is sales from Sandeep.
Okay.
But now in terms of buyer, you're not able to actually know who's the buyer if the PIN of the buyer has not been captured. And I think that is the conversation that we are trying to educate people.
Okay.
That when it's a business-to-business transaction, then you need to indicate your PIN that I'm the buyer, so that it's tied to you. So if through declaration your PIN is already captured, you get the credit. If it's a VAT purchase and you give out your PIN, you get the input tax credit. And if it's income tax, the same. You get the
so as long as the PIN is there,
Yes.
then I should be able to claim
the
it.
PIN, Yes.
But I still hear you say the systems might not speak to each other immediately, but that's something that in the short term Revenue Authority is working on, because I would want, when I import and I pay the import VAT, then when I download my VAT return, I expect that transaction to have been picked up.
Currently, they're talking to each other, so you should be able to get.
That
the only challenge is
Okay.
If there's a challenge with the PIN
Okay.
that was captured, if it was not transmitted to the Revenue Authority,
Okay.
then it becomes a reconciliation
Okay.
issue.
All right, fair enough. So maybe, so the exemptions I heard are not going to be in every sector apart from the banks. So within the financial services, it's only banks that the interest income or the interest expense that they will not be required to issue ETIMS invoices. But for insurance companies, for instance, they would still require, medical would still require ETIMS invoices, schools would still require ETIMS invoices. Okay. So everyone requires them. What about government services?
For government services, you know, the law had talked about business, and government services are not business, but we are looking at a scenario where, you know, with digitalization, government services right now are migrating to a platform.
Yeah.
A digital platform where from the government directive of all digital services have to be hosted in a platform.
Okay.
And currently all of them are being migrated to eCitizen. So once they are being migrated to eCitizen, then we'll have a formal way of how that information is available to the Revenue Authority. But there are some who have already adopted the same, and they're able to comply.
All right. So in your view, and I think we have talked about this briefly, what would you think, based on your experience, are the challenges that SMEs are facing with regard to the uptake of ETIMS, and what are the solutions available?
I think the biggest challenge is capacity building.
Okay.
Where people are able to actually get this information and demystify that ETIMS is not a tax, and what benefits are you getting to do. And I think KRA has really done a lot to try and educate, but I think the misconception that even sometimes when we try and reach out to maybe these MSMEs to try and give them information, probably if somebody is not compliant, then they are scared that KRA is going to now nab me and have challenges in this declaration. But we are using even the consultants and also other partners to be able to actually do this conversation like what we are doing in conjunction with UBA and KPMG.
Okay.
To just make sure that our MSMEs are able to get this information, comply, and you know, that's how the business grows, because
Absolutely.
you'll never be an MSME for forever. Everybody intends to grow, and with this partnership, then it means that you can get more financing from UBA, and you can reach out to Sandeep for consultancy and also your records, and
Absolutely.
you're good.
So I think you mentioned briefly about the benefits, but what if I do not get onboarded onto eTIMS?
Yeah.
So don't give me the repercussions, but tell me about the benefits of actually onboarding on eTIMS.
Okay.
Why must I?
There are a lot of opportunities that you stand to gain from doing in eTIMS. The first one is just a simple way of keeping your records.
Okay.
Because if you're able to keep, let's take an example of mobile money. If I pay my expenses using mobile money, then I have a text record of all my expenditure.
Okay.
So that is one of the ways of keeping your records in a digital format. And you can always say, oh, I paid for taxi fare on this certain day. I paid for rent on this particular day. I paid for electricity on this day, you see. So that's one form of digitalization that has assisted in the record keeping. Now, if you look at the tax side, then it means that for all the incomes and expenses, we had been initially on the hard or manual processes where you have to print a receipt or where you have to write a cash sale book. And you know, now with the green technology of where we are moving to, we don't have to use, we just need to go paperless.
Yeah.
And with eTIMS, it offers that flexibility to go paperless, where you can just generate an invoice and maybe send via email, and the other person receives it. And also through the same system, they can be able to receive through the system without printing the same.
So what I hear you say is that it eases trade.
Yes.
In the sense that if today I'm not onboarded on eTIMS, then tomorrow or past 31st March, I'll not be able to trade with my supply chain or my value chain.
Yeah,
I think that's very important to understand.
Important,
So that if I cannot give you, Andrew, as my customer an eTIMS invoice, then you will not want to buy from me.
True.
You will go to maybe Catherine here and buy from her because she's onboarded eTIMS.
Yes.
But even for me as the person making the sale, I also must encourage my supply chain to give me an eTIMS compliant invoice so that I can claim it as a credit.
Yes.
But I think the challenge there would then be, if I'm say a butcher, for example, and I sell meat to a restaurant, I'd have to do it through eTIMS.
Yes.
But if you walk into my shop and you want meat for a family, it would be a cash thing. You'd probably just pay me cash, and I might not give you eTIMS. Those would, I probably think, would be some of the challenges you might still face. But perhaps it's a small fraction comparatively to the larger business, because if I want to grow my business, then I'd want to trade with a company.
Yes.
And a company would require an eTIMS invoice. So that would be one of the key benefits I hear you saying, that if I want to grow, and you talked about growth, then it can only be done through eTIMS.
Yes, through eTIMS, true.
Okay, very, very, very interesting. So if I'm already on TIMS, and I know this is a conversation a lot of taxpayers have had, I have the TIMS devices, it could be type A, B, or C. Must I then get onboarded on eTIMS? Are they different, or are we okay? If I sell through TIMS, will my value chain still be able to claim that input VAT and that expense? Because I'm doing it through TIMS,
yes,
but not
actually,
eTIMS.
You realize that eTIMS and TIMS are within the same bracket, where we started off with TIMS for the VAT registered taxpayers. So TIMS falls under those who are VAT registered. And through the feedback we received after the rollout of TIMS, then we moved over to now expand, because you see with TIMS probably will not have netted this plumber or this small trader under USSD.
Yes.
So we needed to move to a different solution that will now encompass both the devices and also the software approach, so that it brings that flexibility in people being able to comply, because with the device-based, people had to buy the devices, and one of the biggest concern was the cost. So if somebody's already on Teams, then they are okay. We are planning to see how we'll be able to transition them, but for now they're okay, so you should be able to receive the Teams invoices as well as eTeams.
But eTeams comes at no cost. I remember the
Yes.
Teams conversation, that even the Type A, the smallest device was going for like 40,000 shillings,
Yes,
where a Type C I think was going for about 120K. But now you're telling me if a taxpayer opts to now migrate to eTeams, there's no further cash outflow.
No.
Okay, you know, for the SMEs, that's very important to understand. Do I have to pay more? And I've just invested in a Teams device last year.
No, you don't have to.
All right, fair enough. So maybe...
But you can migrate. If
you
you're having
can.
challenges in your Teams device, then you can easily migrate to eTeams and be able to continue issuing your invoices.
So building on that point, what is Revenue Authority doing to then assist taxpayers? I think, what are you doing differently? Are you doing capacity building? Are you helping people on board? And if I do want to get onboarded onto eTeams, how long, if I use the online version, how long will it take?
The one that we are using with what we call simplified solutions, which are in partnership with eCitizen, those ones are instant.
Okay.
Because you just have to go to the *2 hash, register yourself there, and invoice immediately.
Okay.
The other simplified solution is the web-based. That is ecitizen.kra.go.ke. You just get to a login page, use your eCitizen credentials, log in, activate, and you are good to go. And we also have, we are uploading actually a mobile app on Play Store for, it's called eTeams Lite.
Okay.
And you can imagine through the 3 solutions, you can interchange. Maybe today you're not able to do on web, then you can do on USSD. If you're not able, you can download the app and use it, and they're able to sync.
Wow. All right, I think that's really important, and I do know Revenue Authority has gone to different counties as well to do capacity building.
Yes.
Do you want to make a comment on that?
Yes. Actually, in the month of February and March, we've done a lot of capacity building in conjunction with different stakeholders.
Okay.
The accountants, the county governments, and the tax stations within the country.
Okay.
And we've been able, actually, I'm sure some of the SMEs have attended our stakeholder capacity buildings in the counties, because we've actually gone to all the counties.
Okay.
And we've managed to do those stakeholder engagements with them, and just get their feedback on how best we can be able to now make their journey or the customer journey appreciated.
Okay. Thank you so much, Andrew. So that, delegates, brings us to the end of the first topic, which is eTeams. If you do have any questions, please put them in the chat, and then maybe Catherine will help us coordinate that. We'll have a 10-minute Q&A session. The second part, which is really around the tax amnesty, Andrew, tell the delegates what is the tax amnesty, and can they take advantage of it? How do they do that? And then if I do have an audit in 2023, will I still be able to take advantage of the tax amnesty?
Okay, thank you. So for the tax amnesty, I think we have something we call Chapa Reset.
Chapa Reset?
Yeah, so you know, basically what it means is that I've been having challenges with my tax account, and now I need to reset, to start afresh, so that I can have my records clean. And it's just the same way that somebody can decide to get saved and be forgiven all their sins.
You're linking tax to God, huh? Okay.
They almost, because the Bible says we give to Caesar what belongs to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So now, with tax amnesty, I think from our stakeholders, we actually realized that some were saying that the waiver process is a bit cumbersome. You must have to know someone, you must have to pay something, you must have to probably do some magic to get it, and it's being favored to certain people. And a lot of SMEs who didn't know how to file records or what VAT means ended up having a lot of penalties. And it was not because of not knowing that they needed to file, but probably how they came into the tax bracket was by default, and now this was an opportunity to try and offer everyone a new start.
Okay.
So that you're actually forgiven for all the penalties from December 2022 until way back from when you took your PIN, just to make sure that we are able to deal with the huge penalties and interest that have been incurred on our taxpayers. And you see, running through the mantra care cares, we truly care about our taxpayers. And seeing that some of them are actually wallowing in a lot of penalties and interest, then how best can we make sure that it's uniform across board? So that is how the tax amnesty was brought about, to make sure we are able to actually waive the penalties and interest for everyone. So if you had penalties and interest accumulating up to December 2022, going backwards, then we are able to actually waive that. And if you had some principal taxes that you needed to pay, then we allow you installments to pay up to June 2024.
Okay.
And once you pay that, then also the penalties and interest which had accrued on those principal taxes then will be waived.
So I think, Andrew, this is a very important point. Once I have settled the principal tax is when the waiver application would happen. What I've seen even from my experiences from our clients that had settled the principal tax, if those interest and penalties, and I've seen even Gary doing an automatic waiver of the same, so even you just get amnesty certificate. You don't even need to make an application the way we used to do in the past. But I think very important for you to highlight is that going forward, Jan 2023 actually, going forward, there is no more waiver of interest and penalties, which means if today you come and audit an operations of an SME for say 2023, for 2023, and you issue an assessment of X amount interest and penalties, the SME will have to pay the total amount.
Yes.
There is no more waiver as was in the past, where I could pay the principal and make that paper application or iTax application, right?
Yes. You see, now when we were saying it's a new start, we expected that as you get the waiver, then you now comply going forward. So for those who have penalties and interest for 2023, they do not get any waiver because the cutoff is December 2022.
So you talked about the past, and remember we had the legacy system, then we had iTax, and now I know there are conversations of iTax 2.0, which means the data from iTax and the legacy system will have to migrate. And legacy is really the period before 2014, before iTax came into effect. I do know a number of SMEs that are having challenges with the legacy system. So this waiver application, I have to ask you very clearly, it's not just iTax related.
No, it's not iTax.
So the taxpayer has to get information, of their legacy system, if they've been trading since the 1980s, 1990s, well before iTax. So they will need to get information for that entire system to see what's pending, because otherwise my understanding is that you will then migrate end-to-end data of the taxpayer into the new system.
Yes. Actually, the thing is, it's covering the taxes way back.
Okay.
So now we have the what we call tax service offices within the entire country.
Okay.
So somebody can just walk into their tax service office and be able to get information about their debts and penalties from December 2022 up to the time they took their PIN.
Okay.
So that they can be able to take advantage of this. You realize that the waiver period will end in June this year. So it's
in a few months.
So it's good that people take advantage of this, and then now just make sure that their records now are clean, and now they are able to file with ease and also take advantage of the opportunities that are out there.
The current opportunities for the amnesty, huh?
Yes.
Because after that, it's payment of everything.
It's payment of everything.
All right, I think delegates, that brings us to the end of the first session. I don't know, Catherine, if there are any questions online that maybe Andrew or myself can take, as then we hand back to you for the second leg of the program.
Okay, so thank you very much, Sandeep and Andrew. I think that has been a very insightful session. I hope our audience online, as you watch, you have taken in some great notes. Personally, I've learned about chapter reset, and I think that's a very, very key aspect that we all need to take advantage of before the deadline that comes on the 30th of June this year. And as well on the e-Teams deadline that is fast approaching on the 31st of March. So I think we have a question to the gentleman online, and we have Mary who is asking, if I get some of my supply from a supermarket, how does that work? Also, in a case scenario that I'm getting from a kiosk, like eggs, how does this work?
So maybe Andrew can answer part of the question, but for me, if Mary, if you do buy from a supermarket, supermarkets currently have the Type-C device for e-Teams, they're integrated. You have to give them your PIN number if you intend to claim that as an expense. So I think for me, the main thing for Mary would be if she's running a business and she's buying that input to claim in the business, and that's a very important point, then she will need to give a PIN to the supermarket, and then she can claim that from an input or a cost perspective. I think the one for the kiosk, as I was mentioning, I was discussing with Andrew, if she's the end user of those eggs, and we usually don't ask for even a receipt or a cash sale from kiosks, but the idea would be us as taxpayers or as people of this country then have an obligation to say, I want my e-Teams invoice, whether I'm using it for business or not. So we encourage everyone within the trade chain to then get onboarded onto e-Teams, because that's the whole purpose, to expand the tax base. But maybe Andrew, if you have any further comments.
I think you've nailed it on that. So the thing is, we also are trying to come up with solutions where the buyer can initiate.
Reverse invoicing.
Yes. So just to make sure that we are able to tap to, because sometimes you might find that the trader maybe might not be able to issue you with an invoice at that particular moment, but how can we be able to take advantage of the opportunities that are available in technology? And with software, you're able to actually handle each and every scenario. Okay. And with e-Teams, it offers that flexibility for us to be able to tap into that technology and give it to there. But remember, as a kiosk owner, then you need to be part of the tax bracket, and you can be able to actually issue these invoices for purposes of your declaration of income, or if you fall within the tax bracket. Because we had mentioned that generation of e-Teams does not mean that you're paying taxes, but it's just a form of record to ascertain whether you meet the threshold of paying taxes.
That was the 1 million per annum, right? Under 1 million. Yeah.
Okay, so I think we are still continuing to receive if there's any comments. I think we have a comment here from one of our listeners, and he says, I'm glad I'm learning more from this conversation. Can one register e-Teams as an individual, or it has to be a company?
That's a very good question. You can register using, with PINs, we have individual PINs. This is for individual persons, and we have corporate PINs or business PINs, which can either be a partnership or a limited company. So you can still be able to issue invoices under your PIN, which is your individual. And remember that registering for a PIN as an individual will only require your ID. And for the company, it would require the registration certification of either the partnership or the limited company. So it's not limited to companies only. There are also business names, which are sole proprietors, but tied to the same individual PIN. And with a simplified solution, actually what we've brought on board for MSMEs, a lot of MSMEs are very sophisticated in terms of they have business names which have logos and very unique names that they would want to use the same. So we've allowed for you to actually use your business name tied to your individual PIN. So if you have like 4 businesses which are still tied to your individual PIN, you are able to actually switch. There's something we call a switch, meaning that when you log into the Citizen platform, you'll see all the businesses registered to you, and you'll choose which one